Hello everyone. Whoops, sorry, camera is already wobbling and I just started filming. Okay. I'll only do it in one take. Jeff here. Hi everyone. This is a Spin Zone video. It's been a rather busy week for me. Once again, haven't been as active in the VC as I'd like, aside from commenting on a few videos here and there, watching a few videos here and there. The warmer weather's sort of kind of starting to return, and of course that means the yard and other chores that I haven't been able to get to when it's cold out are starting to get done now. So that's a continuing process, I guess you call it. The joys of home ownership, as my friend Dean always says. I also have a rather momentous announcement, although it probably won't be to many of you who have already done it. But I've finally taken the plunge and I've gone down the rabbit hole of Discogs. And as of this morning, I just logged my 100th album from my collection in there. So you can see the laptop. I brought it up from downstairs just to give me a larger screen to work with while I'm looking up the albums. Of course, I can always do it on my phone too, that I'm filming on right now. But yeah, I finally decided to try to organize my collection, get an actual count of how many albums I have, and just because I'm nosy, to find out anything I can about the copy of whatever particular album is that I own. For example, I've been finding out some interesting things through these first 100. I'm just going to turn the camera here and show you. You see I'm pointing the right way. This shelving unit is done. We've got, these are the blues albums. Those are all logged. Here are the Beatles and solo Beatles. Down there is soundtracks, and I had a couple of Christmas albums on the very bottom. So now I'm moving over to this shelving unit, which holds Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Johnny Winter, Carlos Santana / Santana. So that's what I'm working on next. And interestingly enough, my 100th album was Are You Experienced that I logged, and I learned through Discogs, tracing the matrix code and the dead wax, that my copy is a 1979 reprise pressing. So I knew it would be a later issue because it wasn't the tricolor Steamboat reprise label from '67. So, but it's interesting to find out what you have. It is to me. The process is slow. You know, I'm doing these things 10 at a time, and I'm sitting down and pulling every album out, trying to not only squint and see in bright light, you know, the dead wax code and the matrix code and the dead wax, but I'm also trying to give a grading of my albums. So I'm trying to be as conservative as I can. So unless it's an absolutely honest to goodness mint copy, I'm going with VG Plus for a lot of stuff. So as I get further or deeper into my collection, I know there's a lot more records that are a little more beat up and scuffed up than what I'm doing right now. So it's slow. Like I said, some albums that I thought would be difficult to find, I was able to find immediately. Other albums that I didn't think would be a problem, like, for example, this morning, the Woodstock soundtrack. I ended up not being able to find an exact match to what I had, to the code I had on my copy. So for cases like that, I just find the closest one, or either just a generic listing for the album, and I just write in the notes, you know, could not find exact match. So I know Discogs doesn't have every single thing in it, and I'm not out to like edit entries or enter in new ones. I made one exception for that, but on the whole, that's not really my goal, because this project is going to be, if I stick with it every day, it's going to be, you know, weeks or months for me to do everything the way I want to do it. So there will be progress reports as I go along. But overall, I've been pretty lucky and able to find everything that I own. I mean, stuff like the Beatles records, you know, there's like 550 versions of Revolver, you know. Every single one I had, there would be hundreds and hundreds of variations, you know, because they printed millions of the copies of these things. Yeah, the soundtracks were actually tougher than some of the Beatles. Like I have my, the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack took me forever to find the variation that I had, because that was like the best-selling album for a lot of years before Thriller came along. You know, so like 20 million copies. So there's just pressing after pressing after pressing to look through, and your eyes cross after a while. And ugh. But anyway, that's what I've been doing. So that's what's been taking up a lot of my time. And depending on the week, depending on what shift I'm working, I'll be able to work on it more or less, depending on what I'm on. So right now I'm on second, so every morning I've been getting up, making my coffee, pulling 10 albums, and looking them up while I'm drinking my coffee. And then and everything I listen to now, everything I've got in these records to show, I've started logging to Discogs too. So the first one, like this one, Across a Crowded Room by Richard Thompson, got logged. And of course, this was an album that I found in, there's a picture of Mr. Thompson. I found this album in Minnesota when we went to Kilworry last summer. There was a record shop a couple of towns over. I found this, and I found a couple others, which I forget right now. But whatever the case may be, I love Richard Thompson. Love his voice. I know Anthony Ferraro commented that he just can't get into Richard Thompson's voice. To each his own, you know. He's certainly a better singer to me than a lot of people. And he's an excellent guitarist, and he's an excellent songwriter. Particularly of those kind of broken-hearted love songs that just grab you. He's a master at doing that stuff. Which can be kind of depressing at times, but other times it can be kind of enjoyable or cathartic. So, and this album is, I don't think it has any noticeable hits on it. I think When the Spell is Broken was the big hit. I can't remember. But this came out in 1985, Across a Crowded Room by Richard Thompson. Great stuff. Then, a record store day purchase, the Saucerful of Secrets Mono edition by Pink Floyd. This got logged, and needless to say, was one of the more expensive records already in my listings. Lots of people have shown this already. Lots of people bought this for Record Store Day, so I really don't have anything to add other than I thought it sounded great, whether it was in mono or stereo or whatever mix. It sounded just fine to me. This was actually the first time I played this album. I wasn't familiar with Saucerful of Secrets at all, beyond a couple of songs like Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun. But overall I liked it, and I didn't already own this album, so I was glad to add it to my collection. Then, this is the album that actually got me started on the Discogs logging thing. The Blues featuring Ray Charles, Volume 2, on the Hurrah Records label. I knew this was an old copy, and previously to now, I'd used Discogs as like a research tool just to see what I could find out about a particular album. And with this one, I finally just said, you know what, it's time, and I added it to my collection, and I started my list. So this was the one that started it all. This album is actually visually, it's in rough-looking shape, but sonically, it plays okay. It's noisy, you know, it's got background noise to a degree, but not so much that it distracts from the enjoyment of the music. So, I actually wasn't really familiar with any of these songs by him, but it was a very good listen, and if for no other reason, I'm glad I have this because it inspired me to start my Discogs list. Then, I know I said this was going to take a while to listen to. The Triple Live album by Eric Clapton, One More Car, One More Rider. And last week, I was at home with my wife. She's a big Clapton fan too. And I said, you want to start listening to this? And she said, sure. So we played the first disc. She's like, wow, that was really good. I'm like, you want to listen to the next one? She's like, yeah. So we played the second one, and sure enough, we ended up listening to all 3 discs back to back to back. So here is try to do this without the glare. You can see the set list, mostly his greatest hits. But I know I said in my last Spin Zone that Clapton gets bashed a lot on the VC, and rightfully so. And of course my wife yelled at me for that. She's like, why are you saying that about Eric Clapton? You love Eric Clapton. I'm like, yeah, I do. I do love Eric Clapton, but, you know, not every single thing he put out was a winner for me. That's all. But the albums that I do own are the ones that I like. So, and live, he's awesome, no matter what. So this album was a big winner. And it sounded wonderful. It was a record store day purchase. This was actually the first record that I ordered online from the record store day lineup this year, and it was like the last one to arrive. It took forever for this thing to get here. Even though it was media rate, and I know those things take about a week, this thing took like almost 2 weeks to finally get here. And following the tracking was just weird. So by the time I got this, I was pretty anxious to listen to it, so we did, and it was wonderful. Live Clapton, you cannot go wrong. Another one you cannot go wrong with is Santana. Played this one over the weekend. This is 1979 album Marathon. And All I Ever Wanted Was to Be With You was the big hit off of this that people may recognize or may not. So around this period, you know, 79 or so, you're getting those touches of, you know, Santana trying to modernize his sound a little bit and add a little more, you know, electronic, what was then electronic synth sounds into the Santana mix. Of course, his distinctive guitar cuts through all that anyway, so no matter what, once you hear that guitar tone, you know you're listening to Santana. So, and this album's no exception. Yeah, this one is good just like all of his other albums are good, to me. I'll never say anything bad about Santana. I'm getting a better opinion of this guy, too. Let me take it out of the sleeve, hopefully for less glare. Yeah, a little bit. This is Frank Zappa, his album Apostrophe. This was one of the albums I bought off of my wife's cousin when I bought those big Kenwood speakers, he also had a beautiful wooden box full of records. It's on the Discreet label here. Mint condition album. And I bought like 10 or 12 records off of him. And every single one of them were in excellent condition. So he took care of his records, which was very nice. But I know this album is the one that has Don't Eat the Yellow Snow that I said I didn't care for. But upon another listening to it, it was okay. I ended up liking this album a lot more than I quite honestly thought I would. I mean, I like the Hot Rats album. That's really good. And this one is probably on a par with that, I would say. So, geez. Cosmic Debris was a great track. Stinkfoot, of course. Eccentrical Force. Yeah, I love his song titles too. So, if you're wanting to dip your toe into the Zappa universe, so to speak, this one would be a good place to start, and probably Hot Rats too. So this is Apostrophe by Frank Zappa. I don't know if I'm going to go any further with him or not, but if I came across some of his records at a sale or something for a decent price, I probably wouldn't say no. So that's a good thing. Listened to this one yesterday. I got this on sale. Hannah told me about the sale for, what's the record site? But it was only $8, I think, to get this one. It's The Death of Rock, Peter Holtzapfel versus Alex Chilton, which means that the first side is all songs by Peter Holtzapfel. The second side is by Alex Chilton. I have to say I liked the Alex Chilton side better than the Holtzapfel side. I mean, all of the tracks on this album sound like demos. Some of them probably were demos, but I just seem to dig the Chilton stuff more. It seemed to have more of a 50s rockabilly sound to it than the Holtzapfel, which is fine. I mean, his stuff was okay, but I was like, eh. And then I flipped the record over and I started listening to the Chilton, and I was like, yeah, I dig this a lot more. So, probably not a must-own unless you're an absolute completist for Alex Chilton. Or Peter Holtzapfel or the DBs. But, you know, for the price, it was cheap enough for me to take a chance on it. So, I'm pretty much glad I did, overall. I love Alex Chilton. And, of course, you guys already know how much I love Big Star. And what I just spun this morning, what I actually just finished playing a couple of minutes ago, was the great Isaac Hayes with his great album, Hot Buttered Soul. And here's the man. And, of course, this was a famous album of his. He covers Walk On By on this album, and he totally makes it his own instead of the cocktail pop tune that Dionne Warwick had with it. And on side 2, he turns By the Time I Get to Phoenix into nearly a side-long epic. That song takes up like 3/4 of side 2. And he goes into this long rap about love and women and the songwriter of this song, which I think Jimmy Webb wrote By the Time I Got to Phoenix, didn't he? I think he did. And he just goes on, and he's playing organ, and it sounds like, it almost sounds like you're in church. It almost has like a gospel feel to it. And when he finally starts singing the song, you know, you're just ready for it to go, and it's just like a release almost. Because he just takes you there. Not that way. Yeah, I'm looking at you. But you know what I mean. Musically. So, this was a great listen. And, God, I just forgot what I was going to say. This keeps happening to me. What's wrong with me? 1969 Soul Classic. This should be in everyone's collection, too. In my opinion. I bought this last year at a record show. That's how long it's been sitting in my crate. So, I wonder if that phone call just interrupted my thing. We'll see. Sorry, if there were tones through that, you heard my phone starting to ring, I apologize. But we're 20 minutes in, I'm not doing this over again. So, yeah. That's going to be it for me. I told you, it's all in one take. We don't mess around. Oh! Before I forget, hold on. There's one more thing I got to show you. Almost forgot. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty rough video, so apologies to everybody. I got a VCLT from DJ Trish. I got one of her mixes. I got Audio Awesomeness. I'll give you a quick... Oh, and she signed the CD to me. Very nice. And there is the track list. I love these mixes that Trish sends me. And she also sent another one called Beach Time 2019. And, oh, CD popped out. Sorry. There's the track list for that. Wonderful stuff. I haven't played these yet, but they will get spun quite soon. And, of course, she sent her usual round of stickers and cards. And she sent this card here, which she got, that I guess B-Side Records made this for, huh? Or is it B-Sides? No, sorry, it's B-Sides, not B-Side Records. B-Sides Jenny made it for. Okay. B-Side Records is Beth. Sorry, I got them confused. And here is the other side. So, thank you very much, Trish. I appreciate it. Very nice of you to send me these mixes. They are very, very enjoyable. You've got great taste in music, obviously, being a DJ. So, I wanted to thank you for that. So, okay. That's going to be it for me. More Tales of the Discogs list to come. And I hope everyone is doing well. So, all that said, I will cut it off here. Peace, everyone. And I will see you again soon.